This is the story of a commander who never sent men anywhere he wasn't willing to go himself. A general who walked into hell before asking anyone else to. If you love real U.S. war legends and untold battlefield history, hit subscribe. Because today we follow the footsteps of the immortal Hal Moore. The Vietnam War was young. The American people were still trying to understand what their country had stepped into. And deep inside the central highlands of Vietnam, in a place few maps ever named correctly, destiny waited, a valley full of danger, mystery, and silence. This place was called Ia Drang, and into that valley stepped a commander who would redefine leadership for generations, Lieutenant Colonel Harold Gregory Moore. To his men, he was simply Hal. Before the battle, a commander unlike any other, Hal Moore wasn't built like a hero from a war movie. No towering height, no loud voice, no arrogance. Instead, he carried a calm fire, a quiet conviction that made men trust him instantly. He had spent years studying warfare, Korea, World War II, guerrilla conflicts around the world. His greatest fear was not dying, but failing those he led. Moore's promise was simple: I will be the first to step onto the battlefield and the last to leave it. This wasn't a slogan. It was a law. November 14th, 1965, and into the Valley of Death in the early hours of that morning, the helicopters of the 1st Cavalry Division, Airmobile, lifted from Camp Holloway. The rotors thundered like war drums as Moore and his men flew toward Landing Zone X-Ray, a patch of clearing surrounded by thick elephant grass and hidden mountains. Moore was the very first American soldier to jump out when the helicopters touched down. He scanned the tree line. Silence. Too much silence. He turned to his men and calmly said, "Fix bayonets, they're out there." He was right. Just beyond the tree shadows lay 2,000 North Vietnamese soldiers, a full regiment concealed inside the jungle labyrinth. The ambush that war comes like lightning. At 12:15 p.m., the jungle erupted. AK-47 fire tore the air. Mortars thundered. NVA soldiers swarmed in waves trying to crush the Americans before reinforcements could arrive. Within minutes, Moore's tiny force was nearly overrun. Maps were useless. Radios jammed. The enemy attacked from every angle, a tactic designed to cause confusion so complete that entire companies vanished in minutes. But Moore didn't flinch. He stood in the open, bullets cracking around him, directing fire, shouting orders, pulling wounded into cover. One private yelled over the noise, "Sir, we're surrounded." Moore replied without hesitation, "Good. That means we can attack in every direction." The line held because he refused to let it break. The Lost Platoon. A nightmare. Within the nightmare, while maneuvering on the perimeter, a U.S. platoon led by Lieutenant Henry Herrick chased enemy scouts deeper into the jungle and vanished. Cut off. Surrounded. Low on ammo. The radio went silent. Moore faced an impossible decision: pull back and leave them, or hold the clearing under hellfire while rescue attempts continued. He chose the second. He chose his soldiers. For 2 long days, the Lost Platoon fought off human wave attacks, often hand-to-hand, waiting for the general who refused to abandon them. Night falls, and the battlefield turns into a different kind of hellish darkness swallowed the valley. The jungle turned terrifyingly quiet. Moore walked among the wounded and dead with a flashlight, directing medics, comforting soldiers, refusing rest. He radioed artillery strikes so close that shrapnel cut tree bark inches from his own head. Survival depended on precision measured in feet, sometimes inches. Moore later said, "I wasn't brave. I was responsible." But the men who watched him believed otherwise. Day 2. Hold the line, help is coming. At dawn, the NVA attacked again, harder than before. Bodies lay everywhere. Smoke drifted. Rifles overheated. Men screamed for medics. The air was thick with burning grass and cordite. Moore moved from foxhole to foxhole, organizing firing angles, repositioning squads, calling reinforcements with a voice steady as stone. By midday, the NVA launched one of the largest assaults of the entire Vietnam War. A tidal wave of soldiers swept toward the American line. Moore stood up and exposed, raising his rifle and shouting, "Steady! They break, we break them harder!" And the men stood with him, because he stood with them. The turning point and the sky opens finally. After nearly 48 hours of chaos, the roar of American air power exploded across the valley. Fighter jets and gunships screamed overhead, delivering the fury that Moore's men had desperately needed. Bombs crashed. Napalm roared. The jungle burned. The NVA assault shattered. And slowly, the tide turned. The aftermath, a general's final promise when relief forces arrived. Moore stayed behind, counting every man, alive or dead.
No one gets left behind.
He wrote each name carefully, refusing to leave until every soldier was accounted for. He was the first to step onto the battlefield, and the last man to leave it. The Battle of Ia Drang became a defining moment in American military history, not because of strategy or firepower, but because of leadership. Moore didn't win the battle alone. His men didn't survive because they were the strongest or the luckiest. They survived because they trusted their commander, a leader who lived his own promise. No one gets left behind.